Welcome to another episode of Berm Peak Express. I'm Seth, and today we're going to be talking about RC crawlers. And we're not going to be talking about specific brands or specific models. We're just going to be talking about your first RC crawler and whether it should be a little one or a big one. So if it were 10 years ago, this would be pretty much your only option. There weren't a lot of micro crawlers available, but today there's tons of them and there are lots of replacement parts. You can upgrade them. You can pretty much have the same experience with a micro crawler as you can with a big one. Now, the way that you're gonna see them referenced is by scale. This is a 24 scale, and this is a 10 scale. If you go into a hobby shop, all the parts and all the options you're gonna see are gonna be mainly 10 scale. Still, these are a growing category and a really good option for a newcomer because they cost less and you can use them in more places. So, these little rocks over here are a pretty good obstacle for our 10 scale crawler. But if we put our micro crawler over here, it's like an entire off-road park. I mean, there are all these obstacles to climb over. So when you scale down, you're also scaling up the environment. You're making the environment more interesting. A little bump is like an entire mountain. Now, once you get indoors, the chasm between what you can ride with a 10 scale versus a micro crawler really widens. This takes up my entire desk. I can't really do much of anything with it, not to mention it's probably dirty and muddy from riding it outside. However, if you use a micro crawler, this desk is now an obstacle course. So once you do start ordering parts and upgrades for these micro crawlers, it's an activity you can do right at your desk. You don't need a big workbench in your garage. So if you have a couple of minutes, your lunch break or whatever, you could install a new bumper or replace something that you broke, upgrade your tires, and usually all you need is one tool. For a first timer, it can be very tempting to get a big crawler because it looks cool and it's so capable, but it's also gonna cost a lot more. So do the batteries, the chargers, and all the accessories you're gonna use with it because it's bigger. For basically the best micro crawler you can get, you're gonna shell out about 120 bucks, and that's gonna come with a battery and a charger. And for a 10 scale, you're gonna be starting at a little bit of a higher price and going up to the moon if you wanna get something really good. Plus, if you're the type of person who likes to accumulate things, you can have a lot more of these without ending up in a divorce. So maybe you live in the city and really the only place you can crawl is inside your apartment or outside your building. And if you wanna go someplace with rocks, you're gonna have to carry one of these guys 3 or 4 blocks. You should really be honest with yourself about what type of terrain you're really gonna be able to drive with it and which one you're gonna be able to get the most use out of. But if you live someplace where you could really get some use out of a 10 scale, there are a lot of advantages to having one of these. First of all, there's no denying that a 10 scale looks cooler. Because they're bigger, they can include lots of different scale details to make it look like a real truck. And to me, that's part of the fun of driving it. When you're controlling it and the weight is pushing the wheels into the rock and it's getting traction and making all sorts of noises that you would hear from a real truck, it's just hilarious. And I feel like in that part of the experience, you get a lot more out of a 10 scale than you do a micro crawler. Now, the other good thing about a 10 scale crawler is there's a lot of space inside of them. This crawler has 4 servos. It has one for the steering, one for the rear differential lock, one for the front, and then one for the 2-speed transmission. So if you want, you can flip this thing into high gear and drive like a complete mashugana. Oh. Yes, you can get a fast RC car that's designed for bashing, but it's nice to have one that can do both, and it's kind of hilarious to watch a truck with truck mannerisms, hitting jumps and kicking up pebbles and all that. I find it to be very enjoyable. But if you don't need all that, you can get a 10 scale with plenty of torque and a really low gear that can climb with the best of them for 250 bucks. So right now I have the 10 scale in this hand and the 24 scale in this hand, and I barely feel this. This would get old after a little while. And sure, if you're gonna go out to a park or something, you can put this down in front of you and drive it, but you're gonna run through some of the battery and you might not be somewhere where you wanna drive an RC car. After all, if you're driving this through the park, everybody is looking at you. But with one of these, you can just throw it into your backpack, sneak off, and just be by yourself and have some fun. So from here, we're gonna take these two crawlers out and I'm gonna show you what they can do. But first, I wanna talk a little bit about each of them because they're unique. I've had them for a bit and I've made some changes. Starting with the micro crawler. The reason I like the SCX24 is that the cost to performance ratio is really good. It's 120 bucks and it has a really good speed control. It has really good steering. There's tons of aftermarket parts that you can get for it. I'm actually ashamed to say how much I've put into this, but I've changed the front bumper. I've added a custom lighting setup on the front and back. I upgraded the motor to a torquier one. I've installed all sorts of heavy brass parts to bring the center of gravity lower. I have heavy aluminum wheels and new tires. I also ordered a new Lexan body from it, which you paint from the inside, and then looks like you did a really good paint job from the outside, and I might be changing this out. And on the topic of bodies, if you want to get a crawler with your favorite style of truck, you're gonna have much better luck with 10 scale. So this is my Chevy Blazer. Curtis actually ordered the body for me around the holidays. This used to be my Land Rover Defender, and in order to put this new body on it, I had to shorten up the suspension links in the back, I had to replace the wheel wells, and I had to just make some adjustments to the body mounts. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to customize these vehicles, and if you're into customization, you're gonna wanna get a popular brand that there's a lot of parts for. So with that, let's get these out into the dirt and see what they can do. So this spot right here, we got a tree stump, we got some roots. It's not really that interesting a spot to bring this guy because it's just gonna monster truck over the roots. It's not gonna be like anything. For the 24 scale, this is a real challenge. This is like a big obstacle course. It might not even make it over some of these things, and so it's gonna take some doing. In comparison to this little 24 scale, this mess of roots here is absolutely huge. I can't just go straight over them. I have to actually come up with a line or give it some gas. So this guy right here, I've done a lot of modifications to. It's got a really low center of gravity because of the heavy wheels and all the brass here. So it takes a lot to flip it over. And when it does flip over, half the time it ends up back on the wheels. Now this is a little newer. I haven't done as many modifications and it flips over super easy. And so what we can do to fix that is add some weight to the wheels. So these are brass hub weights and we're gonna put them right in the center of the wheel at one of the lowest points in the entire vehicle. Now, normally you wouldn't wanna add weight to wheels. It increases unsprung weight, but we don't care, it's a crawler. We just wanna keep it on the ground. We wanna keep it from flipping over when it's side hilling. So they have these little tiny lug wrenches and we can actually unbolt the wheels and just work on it. If you drop this, good luck finding it. Now she can side hill. Mission success. So what's a better first crawler for a beginner? In my opinion, it's the micro crawler because you're in less money, there's less at stake, you can drive them in more places, and then when you get more into it, you can decide what 10 scale you want and you can spend a little more money and get something that meets all your needs. But that's just my opinion. I haven't been doing this for very long. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, found it useful, or just found it entertaining, please consider subscribing to Berm Peak Express. We do lots of things here, not just RC. And thanks for riding with me today. I'll see you next time. Oh. So smooth. Oh.